Gotham City,
a place where you wanna stay. You'll meet
Penguin
with his rotten plan and
Gordon.
saving the day.
Bruce Wayne is an orphan now. Selina is his girlfriend. With Ivy, Bullock, and Alfred too.
They're gonna have a blast together. Go, 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 get it.
Gotham City,
It's the start of a brand new day. Things are upside down here in the
Gotham City.
adventure's just a moment away.
Hello, and you are listening to the Gotham Chronicle podcast powered by the Batman Universe. Check out the BatmanUniverse.net for this and many other great Batman podcasts. I'm Josh, and joining me is...
This is Donovan.
This is Jan.
And this episode is called The Fear Reaper. And there's some fear reaping in Gotham because, Jonathan Crane, decided that instead of being afraid of the Scarecrow, he would become the Scarecrow, which means taking advantage of people's... What's that called when you got that clown phobia? Like, there's a particular name for it.
Oh, yeah, I don't know the technical name for it. It's like something... It's not clown
Taking advantage of the guy's clown phobia with great, special effects results and showing everyone their worst fear. And Gordon's worst fear is, Lee taking a bubble bath with like red,
with red food
Yes,
coloring.
red bubbles.
So Jim and
body.
Penguin and Jim make a bet about, you're like, you can't catch Crane. Betcha I can. Betcha you can't. Betcha I can't. Why is the press covering this? I don't know. But I'll catch that Crane. And he doesn't catch the Crane. And it's like, and he and Bullock go out for a beer afterwards to like talk about it. And Bullock talks about his plans. He's like, yeah, I think I'll just go up to state and spend a week with my old man. Old man. That's it. Falcone. We need to find Falcone. So he makes his plan to, find... The alternative joke would be, which is actually close to what happened in the episode, is Bullock being like, man, if only Falcone was here. Yeah, if only Falcone was here. Now, Jim, why would you say a thing like that? Which is actually similar to what happened. Meanwhile, Bruce is, having a bad time, with this whole Black Shadow vigilante thing. Because he got arrested and, came up with the cover story that he was, actually, thirsty looking for his girlfriend. And he goes right back out again and gets his butt handed to him once again. But Lucius Fox, despite the fact that they can't keep a secret from him, and why would they even want to, he has a new costume for Bruce, so he's even more Black Shadowy and even more non-Batman-y than he ever was before. And speaking of the girlfriend that Bruce was, thirsty for, she and Tabitha both got separate invitations, even though they live in the same place, so it probably would have been better to send one, to a mysterious townhouse, which it's Barbara Keene, who's alive. Is she opening up another nightclub? No. A hidden button reveals that, surprise, it's all guns. She wants Tabitha to join her, but Tabitha's like, you shot my boyfriend in the head. And Babs is like, oh, come on, that was just the one time. All right, I'll join you if you let me cut off... I'll join you if you let me cut off your hand. And she's like, fine, I got a spare one. Go ahead and do it. And Tabitha's like, oh, I'm going to. Go ahead. I'll do it. I'm waiting. I can't cut off your hand, but I'll join you starting Monday. Anyway, so they have a plan to possibly take down the Penguin, but Penguin's on to her, and he's like, I'll be watching you. And Zaz will be like, and I'll be watching all these great guns. Can I keep one?
He's so cute.
Oh, and Poison Ivy takes some poison. So that's Fear Reaper. Gang, what'd you all think of it?
You go, Jen. You go first.
I had I complained during the episode, but when I got to the end, I was like, there's literally nothing I can complain about in this episode, including Barbara and Ivy, which was really weird for me. That was a strange experience. But for the most part, I really, 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 really enjoyed Scarecrow. The clowns were pure nightmare fuel. I do have a phobia of clowns, so that's a thing. But they were actually scary looking, not cutesy looking or funny looking. And I liked all the Bruce stuff, and that excuse, that was the most solid excuse I could ever hear him ever give.
Real talk.
And yeah. And any episode with Lucius is episode worth watching.
Yes, I agree.
Take that, season 1. Oh no, he was in season 1.
He appeared. I'm pretty sure he only appeared once in season 1, but it was like he
He's
introduced
like,
him.
Bruce, your father was a stoic. He's
Da,
like,
da,
okay.
da.
That means like look for a book in your bookshelf. Like,
But of course, it's so obvious. I liked this episode as I was watching it. It was very enjoyable. Because it took us about an hour after it aired for us to kind of record, so I had 60 minutes to think about it, and some things sort of fell apart. But generally, I dug it. I think that I have more of a problem with Ivy. Barbara King was pretty cool, but Ivy at the end, I'm like, I don't know about this. And I do kind of question like where some of the characters' motivations are. But overall, this was fine, and I think I've said this before, but I think Gotham has solidified its what kind of show it wants to be. It knows what it wants to do. It does it generally well, whether it's like funny or silly or wacky. It's never not. I can't remember I can't remember ever being bored by Gotham in a long time, if ever. So I definitely liked what I saw, even though some things are super kind of wacky. But this was another fine episode. Gordon, save me! Penguin or chicken?
that was last episode. But ghost, but I killed him. I mean, that is to say, the press doesn't care about that.
Yeah.
So this episode was actually a special one for me in that, I got to see this one, in a theater, which the only time I saw, a group showing of Gotham before this was when Stella and Dawn and I saw the pilot at San Diego in Hall H 3 years ago now. Little did we realize, the journey that we were in for.
Take over our lives.
Tribeca TV Festival over in New York, they were showing this episode of Gotham. I actually suspect that they were originally going to do the season premiere, but if you remember, they moved Gotham season premiere up a week, so that meant that it wouldn't make sense to show the season premiere at this point. So they showed the second episode. So I sent an email and I was like, hey, can I get a press pass for this? And they said, sure. And they were doing a red carpet. So I, requested interest in the red carpet. So I almost didn't go at the last minute because I just did San Diego. At that point, it had been less than 2 months since I had done San Diego and a few weeks after Dragon Con. And I had, I'm doing New York Comic Con a week and a half after this. So I was like, can I really do this? But money's been good at work lately. So I was like, you know what? This is a red carpet thing. I'm going to be watching Gotham with the cast. This is a special experience. I need to do it. So
did you sit right next to Gordon and Penguin, right in between them?
And they kept on reaching, over my lap to hold hands. No, I didn't actually sit with the cast, but I got to do red carpet with it, which I had never done that type of red carpet before because we have these things called video lines at Comic-Con, which are kind of like red carpet that we've done in the past and print roundtables, but this was something else. So I was so unsure of what the rules were. I was if I talk to someone for too long, am I hogging them? What's the etiquette here? And but it all went well, and it was really cool to see a Batman Universe place card for my spot on the red carpet. And I talked to Ben McKenzie, and he talked about his upcoming relationship with Sophia Falcone, and I said to him is she going to be mad that you killed her brother? He's like, you would think so. And I showed him old Gordon comics where Gordon had a mansion and a butler, and he was like, what? And I showed him the panel of his son Tony Gordon, wanting the body massage him, and he's like, I've seen this, someone sent this to me on Twitter. And I sheepishly told him that someone was me, and he pointed at me and laughed that someone was you. I had a fun interview with Robin Lord Taylor. There wasn't really any comics involved in that one. And Erin Richards at the end, they were actually rushing her off. So they said that each person can only do one question with her. So I very quickly showed her some old Barbara King comics, and she had never seen them before, Barbara King in the Golden Age. And she was legitimately delighted. The stuff of Ben McKenzie and Erin Richards looking at comics, you can see that on the BatmanUniverse.net's Facebook page. We'll be doing more stuff with the other interviews on the website or maybe on the podcast later, the full things. But for now, that's where those are. Jessica Lucas, I could not talk to on the red carpet because there just wasn't time. But I did talk to her in the lobby, afterwards, and she remembered Ben, who was TVU's intern, that spoke to her during the press room at Comic-Con, and she's like, "Oh yeah, tell him I said hi." To which, like, when I sent Ben the text about that, he totally didn't believe me. And then, like, later on, I was like talking to his mom. I was like, "Did Ben tell you that his girlfriend from Comic-Con like said hi to him?" She's like, "What girlfriend from Comic-Con?" And I
then you showed a picture of Jessica
like,
Lucas, and she was like steam came from her ears. Like, what?
and I said it's a villain from Gotham, and she's like, "It figures that he picked the villain, But then, like, are there any females on Gotham that aren't villains at this point? Like,
that's a legit question.
Let's see.
Because you can't count Lee anymore.
Yeah, Lee tried to murder all of...
Lee set off a bomb that released a virus to the city.
I'm trying to think, because, like, yeah, Selena, Ivy...
Tabitha, Barbara...
Sarah Essen's gone, so she doesn't count. Why are we struggling? Maybe Valerie Vale.
There are no females.
Valerie Vale's gone. Okay,
yeah, Valerie Vale doesn't count.
Yeah, like who is still on the show? Where is coming?
Maybe
up?
That lady who asked Penguin a question.
The extra.
Exactly. Oh, that lady cop that's apparently going to show up will maybe not be a bad guy.
Oh right, yeah, the one at Dragon Con.
Yeah, they were cut to like her like being evil, like and like taking money from things.
I want my seat at the table.
So afterwards, this was cool because this was at a movie theater, and so they screened that episode of Gotham.
Was
so
it
like
3D?
I got No, yeah, it was 3D in IMAX. No, it wasn't. So it was really kind of cool to like get popcorn and a soda and see this in like a public setting. And when you see something in a community setting, like it's different than seeing it by yourself, and that like the audience reacting to stuff sometimes changes your perception on things. Although sometimes you're still like, that's not funny, because like when Bullock's like, man, this is disgusting. That reminds me, let's get takeout. The audience like cracked up laughing, like, huh, that's our Bullock.
You cross your arms. I refuse to laugh.
And then afterwards, they did like a big. I do have to say, as much as I was enjoying the episode and as much as I was enjoying this community experience, I fell asleep about the last 8 minutes or so because I did an overnight shift like before I got on the flight, and then I immediately got on the flight. So I had been up for 24 hours and like, walked through New York, did the time, did the interview and everything. So because I was sitting still in a dark room in a comfy chair and like not doing anything active for like the first time all day, eventually, despite like Gotham's best efforts, I fell asleep. It's not Gotham's fault. I was just really tired. And then like when everyone was like clapping and cheering at the end when it did the music, like I woke up that 1 second and saw like, Bruce on the ledge. And then I was like, yes, I totally know how this episode ends. And so until it aired, like again, like, days later, I was like, man, I should actually see how this episode ended, but it turns out I didn't miss too much because even like as I was like nodding off, like I heard some pieces of dialogue, and they brought the cast out for a Q&A, which was fun. And they like asked everyone based on the episode, like, what is your worst fear? And like everyone was like answering like, mundane stuff. Then Erin Richards just like took the air out of the room. She's like, my worst fear is happening right now with this nuclear war with North Korea. I'm in fear every day. And like, then it got awkward. So, what's your favorite on-set blooper, gang? Like,
nice save.
So, I liked this episode though, like, and I had good memories of it. One thing that I would like to get into, Jan is not a particular fan of Ivy, and Ivy, I guess, like just because it was a smaller storyline, Ivy, I guess, took a turn this episode. What do we all think of that?
Go for it, Jan.
Oh yeah, like I know that when we talked about Ivy before, you guys have mentioned that she's not really a big fan of men. So when she said the line, "I want to get back at men for how they've treated me," I was just like, "Oh hey, look." She sounds like herself, like actual Ivy. And then she was actually she was still like, what is it?
Sexy. Because
I don't find her attractive, actually, mostly because I'm disgusted. But I'm like so grossed out every time.
me too.
Show off parts of her body. I'm like, no. But I mean, the actress is pretty. I will give you that. But it's just like the way that she's been presented to me. I find it appalling. So I can't find the character attractive at all. And every time I see her, it's like super upsetting. It's still upsetting, but like I said, it's like the most. I know I messaged you guys and I said this is the most Pamela I've ever seen her. And then also, you guys were talking about her downing those chemicals, and I was like, well, she does use plant extracts to change her biology so that she could become stronger and bond with them and stuff. I mean, this is like a very...
That Chinese shopkeeper was Jason Woodrow.
I hope not. Jason Woodrow, her, do you know her origin story?
Okay, do you remember you
Right.
remember the guy, I was going to say Batman and Robin, I'm like, no, that's right, Jan hates the movie, Stella loves it, I got to get my girl straight.
Yes, you do. One is like way older.
Well, Ivy's general origins is that, like, or at least the one that everyone kind of goes with, because she's like 3. But like, there is this scientist named Jason Woodrow who experimented on her and basically gave her like the power to seduce men and control plants. And that's who he was referencing. Like the guy in Batman and Robin, the movie we all hate, like that guy was like the guy from the comics. Also
okay, yeah, because okay. My introduction to most of the Batman villains was either Batman 66, which I don't remember much of because I was like 5, and Batman the Animated Series, which is like a completely different from what I remember.
Yeah, and she didn't have an origin story in that show, so...
Yeah. So when you guys are making like all these references, I'm like,
I rewatched the Pretty Poison, which was her first appearance in Batman the Animated Series, and like they're like at the hospital, and she's like, "Oh, Bruce, I'm so worried about Harvey." Then she like grabs him and tries to like kiss him on the lips, and I'm like, the fuck, like, and we know what she's trying to do. She's trying to also kill Bruce Wayne because he was a part of this like thing that was like killing that flower that she liked, but like. Even still, like, in the context of, like, it's just such, like, a weird, like, tonal shift. Like, oh, I'm so worried about my fiance. Oh, let's make out. It's what he'd want.
You love him just as much as I do.
Just think of Harvey.
But, yeah, so that's what I thought when she was, like, downing all those... it was, like, a haphazard callback to that. The way that she changed herself, because she did make herself stronger, but this Ivy is like a kid, so yeah.
That's the thing too, because of like the way that it just shows progress. Bruce and like Selina have naturally matured, but like when will this character, like when can we expect her to act, her age, quote unquote? Like, is her shtick going to be, she's a little girl in a woman's body, isn't that creepy, you guys? Or is it going to be, like, in season 9 or whatever, she'll finally, we'll basically just try to forget, like, where she came from, which is still weird. I never know.
Ivy in this episode, so I was a little disappointed in it at first that she seemed to be moving away from Penguin because of all the things that they've done with this character. The first time that I actually enjoyed Ivy, and this includes all the versions of Ivy, like throughout this series, was when she like was paired up with Penguin. I didn't like that first episode where they were tied up together, but like I kind of have been enjoying this little banter that they've had between them lately. But then, like, when I thought, so I'm like, oh, that's going to end. So, but when I sat down and thought more about that, I realized, okay, that was something that can really only be taken so far before it would get old. And as we said before, like, that's not Poison Ivy. So whatever she's doing now with these chemicals, at least that's more of a Poison Ivy thing. And having her hopefully go with the sirens, as she was indicating she might do. That's
the thing too. Sorry to interrupt,
because she's an actual member of the Gotham City Sirens in the comics. So
but it looked like they froze her out.
Well, that's also the thing too, because a lot of these characters are like really different. That part of me is like, that's not what Poison Ivy would do, but part of me is that like they clearly aren't trying to make it. It's like with Zaz. Like Zaz is entertaining, but he's different.
I love him.
So
I love him so much.
There's a lot of things going on, like whether she's like their character or not, or whether she's just like this bizarre character on her own. Because on her own, she's still kind of like iffy for me.
That being said, like, I don't know how close she's going to be with the Sirens for a few different reasons. One is, I feel like if you have the trio of Tabitha, Selena, and Babs, Ivy's kind of superfluous to that. And, like, what would she really be there to do aside from, like, say, I'm Ivy? Like, yeah. Well, like, remember that episode of Pinky and the Brain where, like, they were making fun of, from what I understand, this is a Three Stooges joke that, like, I'm too old for, but, like, they did Pinky and the Brain and Larry, and, like, it was Pinky and the Brain just, like, yucking it up, and this guy and this third mouse in the background saying, I'm Larry, and otherwise contributing nothing to the plot, so it's, I really don't feel like there'd be a place for her in that trio. And also, during the Comic-Con interviews, whenever they would mention the family of the Sirens, they would say Tabitha, Selena, and Babs, and, like, they would say nothing about Ivy. So, and also the fact that she's been demoted from, like, series regular to guest star. Yeah. So it could be like season 1 where, like, she's just sometimes randomly there and not, like, back when, like, the first version of the Sirens in the show were just living at Barbara Keene's apartment, and, like, there'd be some episodes where, like, Barbara would come home and Selena would be there, and then other episodes where, like, Ivy would also be there. It would just, like, depend on, like, what week it was.
Well, to be fair, they were street kids, so she could have been out doing something at the time.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, if you're a street kid and you're, like, and you get that apartment, you're not going to leave it.
No, I mean, she could have went out to do something. Like, she can leave. She's not Barbara Keene. She can leave the apartment.
Well, Barbara Keene not leaving the apartment. That did not last. That was something that I thought would be a bigger joke. That, like, the show said, oh, she's going to leave the apartment and become a freaking serial killer and, like, genocide woman. Like,
remember the first episode of season 2 where she, like, strolls into Arkham Asylum like she's going to, like, a cruise?
Yeah.
Sunglasses, everything.
Her designer asylum wear.
In my headcanon, that guy that was helping her was Finley. And, like, that's how he became the Gordon's butler. He came with Barbara. And, like, in the comics, when Finley's Gordon's butler, it's because he was, like, the Keene's family butler. So when Gordon married Barbara Keene...
Wait a minute, is that real? Are you serious? Like,
what do you mean?
Like Gordon married into, like, a rich family in the Golden Age?
No, this is my headcanon.
Barbara Keene wasn't a rich socialite in the comics?
Barbara Keene wasn't anything in the comics.
No.
She's just like...
no, it's okay.
Like,
it's okay.
Gordon just has this unnamed wife, in the early appearances. And then, like, they eventually give her the name Barbara Keene. And then in, like, the Bronze Age, she's, like, more developed as, like, Gordon's, like, pregnant wife who, like, is afraid of him, like, getting shot while he's on duty.
Oh, okay.
And who's always getting kidnapped and who's always divorcing Gordon because so many people, like, try to do sequels to Year One. Like, this is the story of how, Gordon became a divorcee. And it's like, they forgot that they already did 5 other stories of that, so...
But they have to do it in their own unique style. Do you not understand art?
You can actually read 5 different stories of how, like, the Gordon marriage broke up, and usually it's her leaving him because of the adultery, but there's one version where Barbara Gordon, Batgirl, was, like, basically, she witnessed a murder or something like that, I don't remember, and, like, only Gordon and, like, Barbara Keene, like, know about it, and, like, she's in not witness protection, but basically, like, she's an anonymous witness. So, like, these crooks, like, kidnap the Gordon family, and it's like, tell us who witnessed the murder, who the secret witness is, or we're gonna kill your son. And Barbara Keene's like, for God's sakes, Jim, they're gonna kill our son, just tell. And Jim won't tell. She's like, oh, screw this, I'll tell. It's our niece, Barbara Gordon, okay? She's the one. And then, like, at the end of the story, Gordon, like, divorces his wife because of that.
Wow.
Yeah, he gives her, like, a look like, I hate you so much right now.
There's so many different versions of her. Like, have you read Long Halloween? Jan?
Have I what?
Have you read, like, Batman Long Halloween?
Yes. I really like that one.
Yeah, she's in that. And, like that's, like, a version of her. But like,
But that was a long time ago. I'd have to read it again.
she's never, besides the story that Josh just mentioned, she's never like a villainous. She is like 99% made up for this show.
She's usually just kind of in the background and like either like yelling at Jim because like they're having marital problems because like they're always on the edge of divorce. Well, and because Jim is like a more of a flawed character and because we know that in the future they get divorced, so like the comics kind of bridge the gap by showing them being in trouble.
Right. Yeah.
And then in Gail Simone's Batgirl, she's just a horrible mother.
Let us not even get. We'll be here all night. I swear to God.
we'll be here. So Ivy, it's
I want to say that because I like with Ivy's ending, like I said this before that like there's this I just ignore. I want to be taken seriously. I want to do this. It's like I don't know what specifically she wants to do. Like because we're just presuming that she's a criminal now because she's been hanging out with Penguin and healing Selena and stuff, and she wants super strength because of all this. Like it in a lot of ways it feels to me like they're kind of like rushing a lot of this development. So I'm not necessarily excited to see where it goes because it doesn't feel like a natural growth for a character. But at the same time, I guess it's better than...
on the subject of that tangent about, like, Barbara Keane's comic origins, we got a very different Barbara this episode, and I liked it. Aaron Richards, was kind of teasing, over Comic-Con that, like, this was going to be, like, a more cool, calculated Barbara Keane, and I thought that the acting was good. Like, I love the moment where after Tabitha decides not to cut off her hand, even though Barbara's very zen throughout that moment, like, you see, like, when Tabitha and, like, Selena leave, like, she's kind of, like, the way that, like, her neck is, like, breathing, like, back and forth, like, that moment did phase her and, like, at least scare her a little bit. So
yeah,
I'm interested to see, like, where this goes. And I'm glad she's alive. I mean, we've known she's going to be alive for a while. But... I'm just a fan of. I'm just a fan of this character for a few different reasons. One is because like before the show started, I did this whole like investigative like report of like the origins of this character because certain writers were claiming like credit for creating her and the credits were kind of like dubious and it just made me like go back and look at it. And there was a part of me that like because of canon and because she's supposed to like marry Jim possibly and maybe have kids with him depending on the continuity, like I at least want her to be alive so that possibility was open. And even though like at one point last season I was like there's no way that they're going to go down that route, but then Ben McKenzie and Aaron Richards were both like, oh no, they could still possibly get married in the future. We haven't ruled it out.
Let's be real though. Let's look at Jim and his life choices.
Yeah he
like let's go back through seasons 2 and 3. Yeah, let's just do that. Like anything is possible to show. Like
the writers kind of
marry him. You don't know.
That was one thing that happened at the Tribeca TV Festival during the Q&A. They were talking about Barbara going crazy, and like Danny Cannon was at the Q&A thing, and he and Aaron Richards were like, "Yeah, Barbara did not take the breakup very well." And I was like thinking, she broke up with him. Like Jim didn't leave her for Lee. Like Barbara broke up with him. Like that's kind of like forgotten.
Well, Barbara cheated on him, and then like never came back after the whole Falcone thing was done. Because you mentioned before that like Jim never found out that she went back to Montoya
to Renee. Yeah. Well, the whole Penguin's umbrella thing happened where she was like held hostage by Zaz. She wasn't kidnapped, and like Aaron Richards hates it when people say that Barbara was kidnapped because like she showed up at Falcone's door saying, "Please spare Jim," and then he like wouldn't let her leave. And then afterwards, she, like, was a little spooked, so she, like, left Jim in the dead of the night. And he, like, called her and, like, spent, like, a while, like, waiting for her. And then, like, you see that she was with Montoya. And then she still, like, he came by the apartment a bunch of times. So he finally returns the keys. And then, like, Barbara, like, wanders home from her parents' house drunk and sees 2 homeless girls squatting in the apartment. Oh, yeah. I totally forgot. There was, like, that, like, moment where, like... She calls her apartment and Ivy, like, answers, trying to act sexy, like, ooh.
Yeah, I'm here with Jim.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And Barbara, took that seriously, so, like...
Well, some women have higher pitched voices, so it's not
That
hard
would be
to-
funny if that somehow like came up, like if like they're all sitting around like Sirens like manor, and like Ivy's like, "Hey Babs, remember that time when you called your house and like and whatever? That was me." And Barbara like always like, "What? I'll kill you. That's the reason why like why he went with Lee and not with me." Oh, or something. I don't know.
Well, she wasn't in a good place. No one was in a good place at that time.
She comes back and like Selena helps her like get a sexy makeover to impress Jim, but then she sees him making out with Lee in a locker room.
I remember that. Yeah.
And that's our recap for season 1.
And that's how Barbara and Jim broke up.
And that's how Barbara Gordon was born. Wait, no, it wasn't.
Yeah, Barbara Gordon's birth, that's a whole nother like can of worms. Depending on the
I don't think there's any like scene in the comics where we see her conceived, so whatever. But
well, I don't know if you remember this, but like when we were watching the pilot in Hall H, there's like a scene where like Barbara and Jim like make out, and it's like a close up on like a roaring fireplace or something. Then like the next time you see them, like they're obviously like post coitus, and like I turned to Stella and I said, "And that's the origin of Batgirl."
yeah, didn't she hit you?
I said to Stella, "Do you think they just made Barbara?" And she's like, "I don't know."
Well, I mean, in terms of like Barbara in this episode, I do like her kind of like more robotic performance, because it's definitely kind of intriguing. Because we've seen her kind of as a boring sort of housewife. We've seen her as a sort of like loony character.
She was very manic, and then this is a nice transition where she's not like like making like crazy faces at Trumps, and they're like,
it's okay.
I know that must have been fun, but
well, I think after
shows. Okay, go ahead.
Sorry. Well, honestly, by the end of season 3, I had fun with the character because the actress was having fun with her, but I was getting tired of it. I was getting tired of her kind of like just, I deserve to be a crime boss because I wanna, and I'm crazy. That makes me more so than not to say that anybody deserves to be a crime boss necessarily, but it felt like the writers were having a really tough time justifying her character being around because she wasn't doing a lot. And in this instance, even though we know through interviews what's going to happen, and I'm still shocked, it's at least another interesting.
Yeah, Barbara Keene, disciple of Ra's al Ghul,
right?
Which I guess is what Penguin was getting at here. Like, oh, who paid for all of this and everything? So,
and because she doesn't say Bruce Wayne, we've imagined it as Raish.
What if it was Bruce Wayne? That would be weird.
Well, you see, Bruce is paying Barbara so they can make Harley Quinn. It all makes sense. What?
Any other thoughts about the Barbara Keene plot?
Jim, would you want to see Harley Quinn in the show?
No.
No.
Yeah, for real.
But I'm not okay. I like Harley Quinn. I'm just not I just don't want to see her in everything. I didn't want to see the Joker and everything. Jerome was just really good.
It just doesn't make sense to have her at this point in the continuity. That's all.
It doesn't make sense for a lot of characters.
It doesn't make sense for a lot of things. Yes, granted, but
I mean, it's like the show has very little standards, but that would be one nice one to keep. If it were me, we would not see Jerome. We would not see Ra's al Ghul. But they introduced Enigma, Penguin, Selena at the very front. Sure, why not? They could ride the rest of the show with these characters. It's not like Smallville where well, actually it's like because Smallville felt the need to introduce Brainiac and Doomsday and crap. But yeah, I know it's awful. But,
we had Supergirl.
I'm waiting for season 6
and Connor Kent Superboy by the end of the show.
Well, honestly, I would not be surprised if Bane is in this show by the end.
But guys, we already had Azrael, and he was a Batman replacement.
I roll with that just a little bit, only because it wasn't straight up Jean Paul. I just about okay, I'll deal with this.
Well, and in the comics, Azrael was legitimately something that was around for centuries.
Yeah, the legacy character.
Yeah, okay. But it's they had the whole Order of Saint Dumas, and then they had the guy become Azrael, and then they killed him. Literally blew him up. So at this point, I feel like they could literally kill off anybody on this show.
Oh, well, they could. They killed off Alfred.
Yeah. For 2 seconds.
Yeah, they killed off Alfred, Barbara Keene, Solomon Grundy-ish. Gallivan, Fish Mooney twice.
Yep.
Like,
What was it I wanted to say? Oh, right. I wanted to say that I also don't see the point of Ivy being part of the Sirens, mostly because Erin Richards is, like, when she's in a scene, she's like, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. And she's like, she takes up the scene.
well, I mean, wouldn't the Sirens be sort of like an ensemble group thing?
Yes, it would be. But it's like, you'd have Selena. Selena doesn't have to do much. Like, Cameron Bacondova is like amazeballs. I just love looking at her and watching her. She is a cat. She's like a kitty in leather, and it's great. And then you have Tabitha, and I have like a place in my heart for her because I just want her to stop being someone's sidekick. She's been on the show for this long. She deserves to be something more at this point.
She wants a seat at the table.
Yeah, she's like stepping out of her role as a sidekick. But to be fair, she was groomed as one since she was really young. So I can see why it would be like a safe space for her to be in. Like that role is something.
She's a liberal snowflake who needs a safe space. Like,
sure.
Such a whiny snowflake. Like, oh, you shot my boyfriend in the head. Get over it.
Bill O'Reilly, what are you doing here?
Basically.
Get over it, Tabitha. We're going to make Gotham great again.
Penguin literally said that last season.
Yes,
it was. I think he said safe again, but like, yeah. Like,
we don't need to be reminded of our horrible dark reality.
But actually, speaking of Tabitha, what would you... I know that she had to because plot, but like, what do you think about her and Babs getting back together again?
You mean as partners?
Yeah, well, because I don't even know if the show remembers that they like were romantic. I don't even know if I'd say partners because like I feel like they were just fooling around when they first got together. But like, yeah, I mean it's because ever since Tabitha was paired up with Bush, they haven't really mentioned that like, oh yeah, she and Barbara, like banged.
Well, I remember like last season there was like one or two times where like Barbara was like, come on Tabitha, let's do this, and like she was kind of like being kind of touchy-feely with her, but like I agree with you. Like it feels like something that like that the show hasn't really committed to in terms of like establishing a relationship. They're just
I don't know. I mean, when she was with when they were staying at Butch's mansion, like she was all over Tabitha all the time. I mean, she was like traumatized, but like Tabitha was like always shown like holding her, touching her in some way. Like it was more of an intimate thing than just like, oh hey, we're friends.
Well, I feel that actually, now that I remember, when they were fighting to the death in last season, Barbara kissed her, like, as a way to, I guess, psych her out or something. I don't know.
Something.
It feels like there's not many relationships in this show. And like whenever there is, it feels like something that's a lot more brought up. But that one is, it kind of goes back and forth between like, are they girlfriends or are they like, partners? I mean, they can be both, obviously, but there's not a lot of love lost often. There's no like extra incentive of emotion. I feel because a lot of Tabitha's anger towards Baz was because of Butch. Mainly. Of course, I know she was annoyed at her and all that kind of stuff, but I don't know. I agree that like it feels that the writers, it's one of those subplots of the writers.
Didn't she say she was jealous
of who?
Butch?
Yeah, she said that she was jealous. She didn't like elaborate, but she's like, I was this, I was jealous.
She was jealous of her relationship with Butch because she liked Butch more than her.
Yeah, it's I don't know.
I thought that I don't see how that's not black and white. Like I was jealous that you preferred him over me.
Well, but it doesn't always have to be like a romantic jealousy thing. But I mean, definitely there is like, I'm not going to pretend that like it's all strictly platonic because there was a sexual nature to their relationship that just kind of phased out over time. In my headcanon, once Tabitha and Butch got together, that was the end of the sexual nature of her relationship with Barbara, for sure. But yeah, because Tabitha and Butch, they kind of seem to be like, kind of like exclusive.
Well, I don't think Tabitha and Butch ever got romantic together either. I think Tabitha kind of tolerated Butch. But like,
What?
When is she ever like?
Are you kidding me?
No, but
Dude,
no.
he used to call her baby all the time.
Well,
They
he's
were
a mobster.
clearly a couple.
He talks like that. Like I know that Butch was obviously.
We're not doing this Gwen and Flash stuff
No,
again.
but let's shut up. Let me talk.
No. They were in Butch and her were together. That was very clear. I don't know what kind of like sideways view you have on this situation.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm not really into like super
Remember when
shipping.
Tabitha was
but
like
they
in
were
the
like,
hospital and like
Yes.
Butch is like,
I'm
oh,
not
baby,
saying
you're
that
the
like
only one I
I'm not saying
love,
that there
and
was
then-
zero feelings, but when was it established that they were like exclusively together? Like to the point where like Tabitha, I know Tabitha's like, well, I'll get you, baby, but like ever since then, like
when she broke into when Butch was controlling the underworld and Tabitha said, "Hey, let's be together," and then like he was going to drill her, and instead they had sex. Then when she went into the hospital,
wait, no, sex does not mean they're in a
but
relationship.
that was I'm tracking the timeline.
But when was that? Like when did they?
That was-
That was after
Yeah.
Galavan died, and like and then like they came back from the mid-season break, and Butch is controlling the underworld. They developed a sexual relationship then, and then
No, they
when,
didn't. I don't remember that at
Yes, she said
Yes,
we
they
have a
did.
history, and then she climbed into his lap. Go back and watch the episode.
yeah, go back and watch the.
all. Didn't she like? I'm really
And then when Azrael put her in the hospital, Butch is like at her bedside, like, "Oh
Yep.
baby, I never realized how deep my feelings for you were before." Because again, he was kind of only like letting her bang
was it
him.
was
so
it because like he was like under like mind control from Galavan or something?
No,
he
This is
he
way
broke
after
the
that.
spell.
she broke the mind control. She showed up. She said, "We have a history." Then she climbed into his lap because she helped break him from Zaz's mind control.
And they made out, and the camera panned it up, which is like James Bond code for sex. And then when Azrael puts her in the hospital, he's like, "Oh, baby, like, I've never realized how much I loved you." Then they were living together, and then, like, they
were living together, yeah.
And then she kicked him out because of, like, I don't even remember what the reasons were. And then he's like, "Baby, is it because of this? Is it because, is it because I said that Barbara had to get out of here? Why are you breaking up with me? You know I love you." And then, like, they were broken up at the end of the season, I remember, because at the beginning of season 3, like, Butch is, like, following her around like a lovesick puppy, like, like, and Penguin's like, "The only reason why I won't kill you is because of favor the Butch, And then when Butch is ousted from Penguin circles, Tabitha kind of rescues him. And they're clearly together now. Like, people are, like, talking about in the dialogue. Enigma kidnaps the two of them together.
Yeah, and she's like, sorry, Butch, but, like, I want to not get my hand cut off, which I know she reneges later on.
Yeah, but then she changed her mind because Butch, like, said, like, how much he loved her. And then she's like, so she drops the trigger or whatever the thing will.
I find it
she lets her hand get cut off because she loves Butch.
I find it a lot more of a one-sided relationship than I think it's. I'm not saying that she
watch the episode where she lets her hand get cut off.
I'm not saying that she has no. I'm not saying that she has no feelings for Butch whatsoever. But at no point do I feel that like they've ever been on equal footing in terms of like shared emotion. Like, I feel that like a lot of times like she's either led him on.
She got his hand cut off for him.
I know, but like after that, it's like they were still like sidekicks to Barbara, and like he's like, oh, you should like betray her or whatever.
Because this isn't Melrose Place. We're not going to see like
they're
an
gonna
episode
move in
about
together.
them trying to figure out where they're going to like go for dinner.
You know what? Screw both of you.
Here we are arguing about like we're Tabitha and Butch in a relationship.
Yeah, because we're almost like 40. We're 40 minutes in.
Oh goddamn!
I'll drop it.
No, like near the end, like she's like, "I'm sorry, I killed your boyfriend."
I know.
By then she was totally like siding with Butch. She was moving she was coming around to Butch. Like she had like an attachment to Barbara, but she was more attached to Butch at that point.
Okay.
Her and Butch.
Let me say how I believe.
She let her hand.
Let me say what I believe Tabitha's
because of him.
POV is in terms of like her relation to Butch, because she's with Barbara like since how long? Since the end of season 2, right?
The middle of season 2.
Middle of season 2, like
when she was like the beginning of season 2 when she was
not the beginning.
Yeah,
of season,
the maniac.
She was introduced. Well, yeah. There was
but Barbara was like the maniac's bicycle because she was also with Galavan that one time.
Yeah, she was sleeping with Galavan and Tabitha at that point.
Tabitha was jealous of that. But like,
Yeah.
in regards to Butch, I know that like they got together by the end of season 2 because like Barbara, when she was like came back, it was all kind of zombied out. They're hanging out, and she's like, "Oh, she's all in the remote," derp, derp. And like how did Butch separate Tabitha to get with like Nigma and Penguin in season 3? Because like, where was Tabitha during that time?
During what part? Because like everyone
early
moves
season
around
3,
a lot
during the mayoral storyline.
Okay, early season 3 during the mayoral storyline, she and Barbara have this nightclub together, the Sirens.
Yes.
Yep.
And at one point she says, "What about my boyfriend Butch?" Because like they're not going up.
Well, no, because she wasn't with Butch anymore. They had split at the end of season 2. She breaks up with him at the end of season 2.
Because I guess because of the whole Azrael thing.
And don't tell me that they didn't break up, because there is clearly a breakup scene where Butch is like, "Baby, I can change. What's wrong? Is it because I kicked Barbara out?" Like,
I do remember that.
I do remember that.
So they are broken up, but then when that whole Penguin betraying Butch thing happens, like where Enigma sets up Butch and Penguin's going to die,
she goes up to a motorcycle saying, "Don't worry, baby, I'm coming."
Yeah, so that would be when they came together again. But even then, she was kind of like iffy about him until the whole Nigma kidnap thing, because that was when their relationship got more solid, because
that's when it went to the next level.
She's like, "Butch, you're a good roll in the hay, but I really like to be able to clap my hands." But then like he's like, "Baby, I love you." She's like, "Oh, that's so sweet. Okay, Nigma, you can cut off my hand," because it was something like she had to choose between her hand and Butch. And she chose her hand at first, but then, like, Butch said something, so she's like, "Wow." So she let her hand get cut off.
Mm-hmm.
And
I remember that, yeah.
Because of so, like, if he's like, "I love you so much," and she's like, "I love you so much, I'm going to get my hand cut off," wouldn't that imply that they're a couple? Like, what's keeping them apart if they're both saying, "I love you enough to get my hand cut off"?
Why doesn't the show just like say that? Because I mean, they're kind of like hanging around.
They did. The show did say that.
What character says
boyfriend?
Dude, it said it a couple of times. Actually,
yeah.
Honestly, you're not gonna like this answer, but like whenever they say like, "Oh, your boyfriend Butch," I thought they were just joking.
God damn. Was she joking when her hand got cut off?
Wow, dropping the F-bomb again. Don, look what you've done. Look what you've done, Don. You've made him drop the F-bomb again. I'm like so weirded out every time you do that.
Jen, you have no idea, because we always argue about like characters' relationships.
Yeah, I don't understand. Like, you don't think anybody has a relationship ever, though.
Unless
it is like, they have to have it. Like, it has to be in a marquee over the couple while they're making out in wedding dresses. They both have to be in wedding dresses.
Don, those
Bruce and Selena were
married. Yeah, but do we see them get married? Yes, Don, there was a whole episode where those two characters got married.
What?
Was the priest joking, though? Like,
Like, you don't like anyone to be in a relationship. It's weird.
I'm not saying... No. Don't put words in my mouth. I'm not saying they don't want them to be in a relationship. I'm just saying I don't believe that this show has, to my perspective, properly dictated that they were in a relationship.
They don't need to properly... Okay, let me put it this way. They're grown.
So many times. She let her hand get cut off because she loved him. Like,
okay, Josh.
In terms of Gotham, that is an ultimate gesture of love.
Pretty much. But here's the thing. They're grown adults. They don't have to say, like, "Yay, we're dating now." Unless you want it to be like have Butch move in with him like Jim moves in with every girlfriend. And that's how you know specifically that Jim is dating that person. Just wait until he moves into Sophia's house.
Oh, don't you have your own house? I haven't paid the rent in a while.
No, but like, okay, so if they were dating together, then like, did Barbara like have any problem with that? Because I feel that was just like totally unsaid the entire time.
It doesn't need to be said, like mostly because they're villains and they don't talk about their feelings really.
Just F buddies.
What?
I wouldn't go with that either.
That feels awfully presumptuous, though.
I would, because Barbara jumped from Tabitha to Gallivan. Like, she jumped between the two siblings.
Yeah, but this is later. They're still together. Okay. So, here is where we're having a communication problem. The way that Fox or Gotham is portraying female villains is they sleep around. Maybe. Now, not maybe, actually. So... if Tabitha is still sleeping with Barbara, that would not be a problem, because even if she does feel more for Butch, at this point, at the point of which she was like sleeping with both of them, it's kind of like, I don't want to be like tied
I don't
down
think
right
she was
now.
sleeping with both of them at the same time, though, because once she and Butch got serious...
No, I mean,
there was
not after the whole hand thing. I think that's when Barbara started to notice. But I mean, before that, because she was always like, she had Barbara's back.
After the Maniacs thing, we have no indication that they were like sleeping together anymore. Like after that whole like initial Maniacs Galavan storyline, like we never saw them. It's not important. It's not important, but what I'm saying is, because Tabitha is then like, if I have to present this like a lawyer. We see them kissing, we see them sleeping together, then they're separated. Then Tabitha's with someone else, and we see that she's with someone else. Once Barbara is in her orbit again, because we don't have any evidence of them being sexual with each other anymore, while we have evidence of Tabitha being sexual with someone else, I therefore like conclude that in the absence of any evidence that her and Barbara are no longer like, you know, messing around.
I don't remember her kissing Butch once.
You really need to go back and
watch the episode where she sits on his lap and he has the drill hand.
Well, it's like because like even up to like the last season, we saw like Tabitha and Baz being all touchy feely or whatever. And I just to be clear, because I'm not Stella.
I really think that's.
I can't wait till they get married.
Okay, so
and you're like, well, are they really together though?
Here's my finger.
Two women together are usually fan service.
Oh yeah, I think their entire relationship was fan service. I don't think there was anything like genuine about it. But
genuine in the continuity, but like specifically that it was just fan service for sleazy guys to look at.
The Barbara and Renee thing was fan service. Just I don't really think that was genuine either.
Yeah,
I've talked about that on the podcast before, but like
I think that was them trying to show like diversity at the beginning. Like, oh hey, look, we care about the gays.
Partial diversity, partial fan service, and also partial like shock value and like drama. Yeah. Like trying to do like drama of like Jim's girlfriend is like with.
By the way, remember Barbara Keene is bisexual, not straight.
I know that. No, I'm not arguing that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. But to me, I just want to just lay this out there. And it's not like I have a problem with any of this. I just feel that like as far as the show has presented the information, I never got it that like Tabitha and Butch were like seriously involved. Obviously, they had feelings for each other by the end of season 3, especially Butch. But obviously, Tabitha as well.
Obviously, they had feelings.
You mean
for
especially
each other?
Butch since like the end of season 2?
No, but like I'm saying that like. You guys are saying, "Oh, they were seriously dating." Like when they're like, and in the last couple of episodes, shut up, before you say anything else, like the last couple episodes of the last season, when like Butch was like pouring in Tabitha's ear, she's treating us like crap. We got to do something. That never felt like Boris and Natasha. That just felt like like two people under someone's same thumb to me.
To me, it felt like
thumb. They just happen to be making out under the thumb.
To me, it felt like he was more. I don't know if I'm reading this wrong, apparently. He was, like, concerned because he was only there because he wanted to be with her, and he was, like, concerned that she was being taken for granted and not given the respect and trust and power and, everything that she deserved, that he believed she deserved. That's why he was saying things like that. It was out of his love for her. It wasn't just like, oh yeah, we're just here together under her thumb. No, like the only reason he wasn't leaving was because of her, and that was very clear.
I know that, but I never got the sense that like they were like Butch was always in love with her. He always was, very much aware of that. But because from those conversations, I never got the sense that she was like reciprocating his love in those.
That's not how she works.
Yeah,
but she's not going to be like, I love you too.
When she let the hand get cut off.
Yeah, that was like a different type of.
After that, does she act differently towards him?
Yes.
Yes.
Does she?
Yeah, go watch it.
Okay, give me a scene.
That's another reason why I don't think that Tabitha and Barbara were sleeping together anymore, because by the end of season 3, where there was that whole like discussion, like she's taking advantage of you, she's just in that like. The relationship didn't seem sexual nature at that point. It just seems like, gee, Barbara's being bossy. Like, the whole, like, fact that, like, her and Barbara, like, if her and Barbara were still any sort of a sexual couple at that point, I feel like that would have been in play during that like final like we got to get out from under Barbara's thumb thing.
Here's the thing though, because when you're with somebody, if you're friends with somebody, you notice when they pull away from you, and then she could have like. Tabs was always there for her when she needed somebody. She clearly took her for granted. She's like, "We're gonna do this, and you're gonna do it now." And then Butch shows up, and then she's not near Babs nearly enough. She's more with Butch, and then her like puppy is gone. So of course she's gonna get jealous that her puppy is gone.
I think I am inclined to buy that because I do think that like once Butch and Tabitha were like after the whole Riddler thing. Because I think Barbara said to like Riddler, like I'll get revenge for Tabitha's sake or whatever. But like I do think that there was a twinge of jealousy, and when she shot Butch, I think that was partially because of jealousy for Tabitha, maybe.
Yeah, because she's gone. Like that was hers. It was her thing, and it's gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whether it was a sexual thing or not, it was her thing.
All right, I'm tired of being beat up on.
There was. And when they mentioned in the little press things that we did over the summer that, like, she would be in a family with Tabitha and Selena, I was, like, wondering, how are she and Tabitha going to get back together after that Butch thing? But I don't know. There's lots of people who are making up with people that they shouldn't. Like, Gordon probably sees that, like, if Tabitha and Babs can make up, then I'm sure that Falcone will forgive me for shooting his son 3 times in the chest on his wedding day.
Stranger things have happened.
Yeah,
it's true
though. that thing with Mr. Zaz where he was like going crazy for the guns. We talked about that already, but
I do like his performance though, because like he almost like, kind of presented it as though he was like some sort of like game show. I thought it was legitimately funny.
Mm-hmm. Everyone knows that Mr. Zaz loves guns and not
not cutting people and then himself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, he cut himself. Mm-hmm.
Nobody's anybody in this show. They're all original characters.
He cut himself once in the first season, and then you're like, yes, and then I guess they just didn't want to promote self-harm or something, so they just stopped it.
And yet Gordon cuts himself in this episode, and the Vision of Lee does.
Yeah, he's like, I will be Mr. Zaz.
Well, honestly, I'm not sure. Like, did he, when he was cutting himself, like, was it a dream or was he actually doing it?
It was a dream because when it cuts back to it, like, wasn't he holding something else?
I didn't remember. So, because he was saying, "Do it, Gordon, do it." So, like, nothing would have happened if it was a dream, right?
Well, he might have either gone insane or maybe like done something in real life. I don't know.
But like, I'm dead.
Finally.
Wait, what?
I can enjoy my job again.
Is that where we are now, Gordon?
We're kind of like back, as we mentioned last episode, we're kind of like back to season 1 where like Gordon is the only cop trying to do the right thing. And,
yep.
And Bullock's saying, no, let's do the wrong thing, because it was kind of the last like few seasons the opposite, where Gordon's like, come on, let's break it. And they're like, Gordon, we can't do that. Like, now it's, Bullock saying like, come on, let's be corrupt, let's break the law. And he's like,
I mean, you were saying last episode that this license thing was sort of like this, sort of like, it wasn't a legal thing, but they said in the flashback that you legally cannot be arrested if you have a license, which I still flip the television off whenever I see that.
I don't think that they mean literally legally, but like in fairness,
Joshua, I just told you that they said it was legal.
I know. That's what I was going to say. In fairness, they are saying like the distinction that it's legal, but I don't know.
I mean, Gotham is that stupid. That's why I don't like it.
I'm choosing to ignore that. Like,
oh man.
Yeah, what do you think of Gordon's greatest fear?
I thought honestly, I thought they could have done better than that. I mean, I guess, he doesn't want to see Lee hurt. I can't help myself whenever I do that.
Lee, no, she loves me. She loves me, which, like, I flash back to, like, her saying, I demand that you arrest Jim Gordon, and, like, her, like, calling the mob hit on him, or her saying, like, get out of my wedding, I hate you, and, like, her burying him alive, like, she loves me.
Hold on. Her burying him alive was out of love, though.
I'm still confused as to that whole like I'm evil now, and then this is I love the dark side of you, Jim. It's like wow, this is like a new writer to the show.
Yeah, Ben was like catching up on season 3 now. It's on Netflix, and he texted me like a few days ago. He's like, "Why did Lee take the serum?" And I was like, "This is a very good question."
One day we'll never know.
It's a puzzle wrapped in an enigma. I mean, it was honestly, I thought it was well shot. To be honest, like that whole dream sequence was pretty well shot. Although you did have young Scarecrow, herping and derping in the background.
It's what she would want. You don't want her to be mad at you, do you?
Well, which
she can't be any madder than the time I shot Mario.
Boy, was she esteemed.
To be fair, though, he was. She did come over. She was like, "You're a kid." She actually said those words. She was repeating the script from like season 3, where she was calling him a cancer and saying that he hurt everyone, that he was like a poison, and then like the fact that she would take her own life, like it made sense to me narratively. Like it was actually
who did this to you? Was it Mario? I'll kill him.
But yeah, like it was like consistent with what had happened in the previous season and like everything that they'd gone through, and the fact that she did like destroy his life, and that she did destroy herself because of him. Well, not because of him, it was her own decision, but you know what I mean. And then tried to destroy him so that they could be together.
Yeah, there was connective tissue to it. I mean, it's not an out of nowhere dream sequence.
And also, like you need the male protagonist to be, tortured by his truest love, like suffering.
Because Gordon doesn't have anything else going for him as a character in the show.
He feels bad. No, that's like any male protagonist needs some sort of dead spouse.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's definitely the go-to thing.
Yeah. So,
which like, there's rumors going through the underworld that Barbara's dead, because everyone's like, "I heard you were dead." So like, Gordon's not like fantasizing about his other dead fiance, like Barbara.
Yeah, I was actually kind of surprised that, like, well, not too surprised, but I was like wondering if Babs was going to show up like being crazy again or something, like as like to double down on look how many women you fucked up.
Well, Penguin's like, look at all the people that you've tried to save that like that you have.
Yeah, I thought he was going to start mentioning Mario and Barbara, but I mean he didn't have to, and he didn't, but.
Every time Penguin was in GCB, he had like a traveling press corps with him.
Well, yeah.
A bunch of tails to his Sonic.
I did love Bullock's like little roast on him. Like, is a penguin a bird or a mammal? It's a bird, like chicken. And he had that newspaper there and ready.
Yeah, he was like ready. He's like, you knew he had like in his pocket, like, yes, I could finally do it. The thing I've wanted to do since season 1.
I actually liked Bullock in this episode because although he was, not helping Gordon at all, he had a specific reason not to. Like, he has to keep them around with the police, and it made sense. It wasn't like, Gordon, you can't. Like, it was actually kind of playing the game and being smart as opposed to impetuous season 1 Gordon.
He totally set Gordon up, though, with the Falcone thing. He's like, oh, we totally need Falcone here. Yeah, we do. Gordon, why would you agree with me on that? It's like...
Well, what is Falcone going to do anyway? He's not done anything before.
To be fair, I think Bullock was just hearkening to the days where like things were more
in order,
predictable, because the source of the crime was more predictable, because he knew who he was supposed to be falling in line with, period. And now it's just like everything was in chaos after the Tetch virus, because everyone was like in a free-for-all, and then like now Penguin's in charge, and Penguin is actually unpredictable.
It's just funny that, like, I remember season 1 where all Gordon wanted to do was, like, take down Falcone. He's like, Falcone, you're going down. Falcone, I don't want you in this town.
Now Falcone's like a summon in a
and then, like, at the end of season 1, Falcone's like, I'm leaving. No, we need you. Don't go, Falcone.
I ain't too proud to beg.
And then in season 2, he was like, you're like a son to me. And then in season 3, he killed his son. And now we're in season 4.
There can be only one son for Falcone.
He just disembodied Mario.
My favorite thing is how we can literally just like recite things that have happened in previous episodes in chronological order without context, and you have a joke.
because the show's next episode, like, Gordon, you're like a son to me. Here's my daughter, who's like a sister to you. Yeah, well, just call me Barry Allen. What is Barry Allen? Oh no, Gordon, no.
Oh dear.
I completely missed that joke.
That's a reference because in the Flash CW show, Barry Allen and Iris West are like adopted siblings.
Oh, okay.
Engaged to
That's
be married.
awkward.
Yeah, and they're getting married.
What?
Yeah, they're getting married this season.
Josh will never let it go. Well, neither should he.
Yeah, no, like they're brother and sister. Why are they getting married? Like, who's the father of the bride? Is the father of the groom?
Well, at least he was raised properly for his sister.
Jesse Elmore.
Joe West comes into the church. It's like, the bride's side or the groom's side? I don't know. And starts
Splits in half
sobbing.
like a cartoon character.
Oh.
Anyway.
So we were talking about Bullock and the whole Falcone thing. We did get another season of like Gordon, like, come on, I'm going to stop them. Who's with me? And like no one going with him, which like we've had since season 1.
Yeah, I don't know why he thinks that's ever going to change. I mean, like in the last episode, he was coming with me, and then nobody showed up. Well, nobody moved. Then he tried to shame them, and they're like, no one gives a what you think.
Well, it was like, hey, we're cops. We don't make that good money. And then like Penguin like offered like to like give everyone money. Like, didn't Penguin like offer to bribe the police in front of the press?
Salary. I never love how this show depicts like the police as like these like, you know, these weak-willed fools who will do anything. Like, that's always kind of. I'm not that I'm like, you know, a gigantic proponent for police one way or the other, but like it always kind of feels like lazy writing. It's like they're all cowards at any given moment.
Yeah, I feel like there should be at least like one or two, like at least redcoats or something to reinforce why they don't go out. But it's all like, they get this job. Just like, did you become a police officer?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm dropping F-bomb all over the place. Why did you become a police officer?
Well, I mean, there's supposed to be a certain kind of conviction where you get the job, but it's like every time they cut back to the cops, you see like all these extras, like, you know, shaking in their boots and they have their mouths hanging open and like, come on, it's like Gordon's talking to a bunch of children, and that's whenever Gotham like just isn't being able to take itself seriously, at all. I do want to mention the Scarecrow real quick because while I think like the kid is a good actor, his eyes, man, they're distracting. They were freaking big.
Yeah, you kept talking about his eyes.
Yeah.
I didn't see that problem.
I just thought that they were like when he had the mask off, they were like almost like anime size eyes. And I don't know if it's because of the makeup on his face or just like the kid's acting. And it's not, it's not a bad thing. But like I just thought, man, he's never blinking, isn't he? He's like Michael C. Morona. But I still think the way they're doing the Scarecrow is goofy. But that's certainly not unlike the Scarecrow, so I'm rolling with it. It just kind of makes me giggle.
I don't know if it's like goofy so much as campy.
I kind of hold them one and the same.
Yeah, but like goofy would be like ha 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 ha, but the campy, like he's still like scary at times.
I don't find him scary at all. I really don't.
I mean, the idea of what he could do. I mean, you saw what he did. Wait, are we moving on to Scarecrow?
Sure.
No one can stop us.
Organically, yeah.
Okay. When he gassed the guy in charge, bus driver Stu.
Yes, thank you.
When he gassed bus driver Stu, and then Stu went through the whole. We should just really actually call him by his character name, but I don't know what it is. When he went through the hall and like gunned down.
Joe? I don't know.
No. So he goes through the hall and just guns down all of the staff. That was terrifying.
It was a thing. I think it was interesting that like he had people try to conquer their fear and kind of make them go crazy. I think that's kind of a new wrinkle. I mean, the Scarecrow is a great villain, but he's also a villain that I feel can be like he is kind of a balancing act because sometimes he's such a wimp that like he's kind of easy, kind of just beat, and sometimes he's legitimately terrifying. Like if you look at the animated series, like the first couple of designs for him were kind of geeky looking, but like by the time they got to like the New Adventures, he had this really horrifying kind of zombie look. And I think here, Like,
Yeah, he's like a Reaper.
Yeah, you know, there are times where he's just a guy with a bag over his head, and there are times where he's just this kind of haunted figure. And I think because someone online described Gotham as like camp noir, that like they're trying to balance between like, you know, kind of the comic book appeal of it and really being kind of terrifying. And I don't think that they've nailed the tone with him. I don't dislike him, but I do think that like whenever he kind of has this whole thing going up, or starts screaming like, you know, oh, Gordon, you know, like that's also the thing too. It's like, you know, like, Gordon, this is truly fate. You ruin everyone's lives. And it's like, okay, you're talking to Batman. You're just calling him Ben McKenzie or whatever. But I've done that before in the past episodes.
Well, that conversation with Penguin too, where he's like, you know, everyone, you know, like that you try and save dies. That's like a Batman conversation.
Yeah, it's which I don't like, because it's like, you know, okay, so how will we transition from this to this? But, you know, Gotham doesn't think about that kind of thing. And that's kind of my concern about this episode, because there was a lot of, you know, I need to be what I want to be. I'm tired of, you know, not being taken seriously. I'm tired of doing this. I want to have, you know, have a seat at the table. It's like a lot of these characters' motivations are kind of shot out there without real development, really. Like I don't know what Selena actually wants to do besides, like, I'm guessing steal stuff. Whereas Tabitha was a psychopath. So I'm not sure what they have in common, but they're just kind of moving.
Tabitha was just like a henchwoman.
No, she was a psycho. I mean, if you remember in season...
Yeah, but she was a psycho henchwoman. She was a henchwench.
But she was somebody
she didn't
who
really...
was legitimately...
Like, what was her motivation? What drove her?
But she was somebody that, like, I remember James Fran legitimately described as, like, crazy, and you would see her, like, kind of chop people up and stuff. Like, she was a manic character. And, of course, that's kind of gotten away from her since the plot.
But she was just following the orders of...
I'm not saying that, like... What I'm saying is that, like that was made to be her personality, whether James Fran was there or not. Like, she was a sort of, like, kind of sadist kind of character, like a Jerome, like those other characters in the Maniacs.
Yeah, I remember the Maniacs.
So, like, I'm trying to say, so, like what... Because and then, like, you know, for season 3, she was just kind of this enforcer character, and now they're, like, you know, trying to basically
and there was like
make a living stealing
a weird
stuff.
Love triangle for 5 minutes between, like, her and her brother and Barbara, where, like, Barbara, like, slept with both of them, and Tabitha got jealous and, like...
Yes.
There was that. I was just, like, so upset. But also you have to remember, she does get a setup for her transformation to wanting more power, in the way that what Butch said is like, you've been number 2 to everybody, like he said that last season. So that's like a good push towards trying to gain her own stability.
And I think also the fact that, like, she was being forced to work with Nigma when she didn't want to after Nigma cut off her hand. I think that like, you know, like her, like, you know, I'm sad that would make you not want to take orders from people anymore. Because it's like, you know, I'm being forced to, like, I'm not being respected, and, like, I'm being used as a tool for other people's stuff. But yeah,
I will give you too that's a good development towards, you know, her being on her own and stuff like that. But I'm gonna stick my foot in the ground and kind of maintain that, like, it's still kind of nebulous as to, like, what they like for instance, is Bruce. You know, we have an idea he wants to, like, you know, be Batman, but, like, you know, we have an idea of it, but, like, it's still, there's at least conversation about, you know, him and Alfred not really sure where he's going, and maybe it's a combination of we know he's gonna be Batman, and maybe it's a combination of what maybe they're doing it a little better or whatever. But a lot of the other characters, I feel that, like, it's very, very kind of it's not well defined, and there's definitely development. And I'm not saying that they're staying still, but I don't know. They don't really say specifically what they want to do. It's like, I just want, you know, it's like that kind of Disney princess thing, right? It's like, I want more kind of thing. And, like, when a lot of the characters are saying the same thing.
Wow, way to down Disney.
Tabitha's in that, like, little, like, you know, hobo house with, like, Selena, like, look at this stuff. Isn't it neat?
Oh,
it's just
it's
a pizza
empty
pie.
Pizza box.
Yeah, it's just like an empty pizza box. Wouldn't you think my collection's complete? Not really. Wouldn't you think I'm the girl who has pizza?
I'm used to, you know, being like the lone voice on certain opinions, but, like, I feel that, like, when it comes to, like, Ivy, maybe Tabitha, maybe Selena, whenever they say, you know, like I'm tired of doing this, it's like, okay, then what do you want? And they don't really, because I feel that the show itself, not the characters, but the show doesn't really exactly know where they'll be by the end of the season, or if they do, it'll be something that's kind of for shock value. So that's kind of like something that's kind of popped in my head with this episode.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just feel like I honestly feel like Selena and Ivor is like, I want to be taken seriously because they're kids, and kids always want to be taken seriously, especially when they're moving into the adult world, because they're always brushed aside because they're children, especially Ivy. Like, Ivy's dumb as a box of nails.
And
she's an aberration of a character in this show.
Like, Penguin doesn't know she's a baby. He just knows that.
I mean, I'm sure he's picked it up over time.
Okay.
How could he possibly? Clearly, she's an 11-year-old, trapped in a 28-year-old's body.
We keep on saying 11, like she's whatever age Claire.
Because
Foley
she looked
is.
like she was 5 in the first two.
Yeah, like
I don't
Claire
care.
Foley did not mature very fast, or at least like the way she dressed. Like, let me. I think we looked this up last week that like the actress is like 15 now, so like. That would be Ivy's. Oh no, the actress is 16 now.
I know for a fact that Maggie Giha, who plays her now, is my age.
She's in her late 20s. I looked it up. Claire Foley. Oh, she was young Piper in Orange is the New Black. I think I knew that before and I forgot.
But yeah, so like they're just children who want to be taken seriously in a world of crime, which they grew up in. And as for Tabitha, I think this is like the first time she's attempting to venture out into like having control over her own life, considering it's been controlled by her crazy family, and then after that it was controlled by crazy Barbara Keene, and then because she didn't have control of her life and she had other people control it, even after her boyfriend told her you should not let other people control you, she lost the man that she loves. So
I did wonder like if Tabitha like ever got mad at Butch for like blowing up her brother.
Oh, that's true. I guess
I
not.
never thought about that.
We talked about that on the podcast. We're like what's gonna happen when Tabitha wakes up? Like, is my brother okay? Penguin did it.
Did she turn on him at the end of that arc? Like, I remember when she parachuted out of the building. Like, was she mad at her brotber?
I think
do remember
she
wasn't happy because I think he was gonna like kill Silver St. Cloud or something. I'm trying to remember.
Some crap like that.
She did like go like all like every man for herself at the end of that arc. So I don't see how. And also, like, it wasn't really her brother. Her brother had been like brainwashed into being something. He had already died. So.
That's true. Yeah, like when he fought her as Azrael, but like before that, when she like parachuted away, when he still had his faculties, there was some sort of like break that I'm not remembering. But you're right. Like he met her again when he was Azrael and nearly killed her.
He attacked her. He hospitalized her. Like
yeah,
that,
she tried to get through to him and it didn't work. And then Butch blew him up. It's like, well, I tried.
That was the last we saw of her in that season. I was surprised when she showed up again in season 3.
Well,
Same.
She was in the hospital, and because I feel like she was at the end of the season, because then like she and Butch were like living together. Then like
because after the Azrael stuff was they go to Arkham Asylum, then Riddler and Hugo play games with Bruce and the Clayface crap. Like that was the end of the season. I remember that fairly well.
Yeah, because you were like,
because there was
you were in love with that.
Showing up at the apartments. And
yeah,
like her like with Butch and like changing the channel and stuff.
Yeah, it was just as exciting as it sounds.
But yeah, you do remember the Clayface thing because you were like, he put his head in a milk machine.
Oh, for God's sake.
You were like so excited about it.
So the only other plot that we haven't really discussed is the Bruce Wayne plot, which, as I made fun of, like, Lucius has been in the Batcave. Like, why are Alfred and Bruce like, it was rock climbing, like with all the,
because the Batcave didn't have any bat things in it. It was just like his father's stuff about Indian Hill. And he doesn't know that he's been going off to do stuff. He's been too busy with the GCPD and the Riddler being crazy.
No, but why would they think to hide it from? Because they've trusted Lucius to do some digging in Wayne Enterprise and that kind of stuff. He's somebody that has been. He
was a member of Team Bruce. He was down in the Batcave working on stuff with them. I remember they hid the Batcave from Gordon, but they didn't hide it from Lucius.
Yeah, but Lucius is also working at the police department now.
Yeah, now that he's law enforcement, I could see that would make a difference. Because I do remember they were hiding stuff from Gordon.
It's also one of those things where it's they know they can trust Gordon generally, and the GCPD's, not crap. So, I mean, that actually just makes sense because he's police. They don't want to, just basically say, hey, we're breaking the law this way, Lucius, because he would feel compelled to persuade them otherwise. As he did here, he kind of did the whole Morgan Freeman, if I don't know, I don't have to lie kind of thing.
Exactly. Also, plausible deniability was the other word. So.
Even though it's totally immoral because, in this instance, Bruce Wayne is underage. So it's I built you this bulletproof, but what if he gets shot in the head? kind of thing. But whatever.
Let's be real. It's a rich white kid. He can do
Well, that's how I felt that he because there's Alfred or Gordon, we have his bail. There's no need for bail. Get out here, Bruce Wayne, you little scamp.
That ticked me off, and I've debated how much I wanted to talk about that on the podcast. But I guess what I'll say is I do know from experiences that even when bail is posted, it's not like in the movies where your bail's been posted, you can go. There's still a period which can be as long as 6 hours where because of paperwork you don't just pay your bail and walk out. But
But yeah, it was
but whatever.
It's really good lie though. His lie was so solid. I was looking for Selena. I was like, I can't even be mad.
And Alfred and Gordon were okay, never mind.
Exactly.
It's he's a thirsty teenager. Say no more.
Well, it's true, though, because Selena hangs out on rooftops all the time. They both know that. So, Gordon knows it. Alfred already knew why he was there. But Gordon... Alfred's face was this kid.
I've been funny. I was looking for Selena. What? You told me that you were fighting crime.
Okay, both of you in the jail. Which wouldn't be wrong with me, too.
I'm actually super surprised that the police haven't heard about this vigilante running around and beating up people.
Because he's not very effective, as we saw, this episode where he got his butt handed to him, and everyone's I know I've seen him somewhere before.
He did the thing from season 2 where he's I had everything under control. And it's bollocks, Master Wayne. I brained him in the face with his crowbar. You were almost shot to pieces. What do we think about the end bit where he's this? It feels like I'm wearing nothing at all. And he's super
Simpsons joke.
Oh, okay. I've missed it.
It feels like I'm wearing nothing at all. Master Bruce, you aren't. You forgot the costume.
God, that show would get canceled so fast. Why? Cut to last episode where I said I love him. But yeah, no, I thought that was super cool. It was for your rock climbing. I was like, aww. And they just kept talking about rock climbing the entire time. I was like, thank you guys for not breaking that.
What's the actor's name?
Chris Chalk.
Chris Chalk. I almost said Charlie Cox, but I was I knew it was a CC name, but I was
wow, he's Daredevil now.
So, Chris Chalk. I love when he walks in the house and he looks around. He's bad time. He picked up the vibe in the room.
Lucius
time?
is super, super observant, and I just love him. I love that character so much. He's written so
bad
well.
fight. He said, "I never do anything for him."
He is one of the best characters in the show because he's one of the few characters with dignity.
God, it's true because Lord knows Penguin doesn't have.
Cut to next episode where he has to disguise as a showgirl to infiltrate Penguin's club or something.
He would still have dignity. He would be the most dignified showgirl there.
And Penguin's I want the new showgirl to give me a lap dance. He's well, I told Captain, Bullock that I would do it, so.
But Captain Bullock was drunk that day.
What day isn't Captain Bullock drunk?
It's true, though.
And then I think he says, so this is your plan, Harvey? We sit here and get drunk? You have a better plan, partner?
I'll go get Falcone and kill his other Mario.
I'll ask Falcone if he has any other kids I can kill.
Sophia, Mario, Falcone.
Sophia's actually Italian for Mario.
Isn't Mario Italian for itself? What the fuck? There's a line of the episode. It's an endless loop. Quantum physics have gone into itself. Sophia
She pulls off her basket. It is Mario. You thought you killed me.
That was the Fear Reaper. Next week's episode is called They Who Hide Behind Masks. Gordon takes matters into his own hands when he travels to Miami in attempts to persuade. Yeah, Miami.
Why is he going to Miami?
Because he's hunting for Falcones. In attempts to persuade Carmine Falcone, oh yeah, he's an old Italian guy. I guess he'd be in Miami. To persuade for his help in the fight against Penguin. I almost said against Mario.
Wow.
There he meets Carmine's daughter, Sophia, played by Crystal Reed, who unexpectedly follows Gordon back to Gotham. The battle for Penguin's prize weaponry continues during auction night. Oh, didn't Harry caption this scene at the Iceberg Lounge, and Bruce's present puts him on Penguin's radar, and the all-new They Who Hide Behind Masks airing Thursday, October 5th on Fox. And the guest cast list is someone named Myrtle Jenkins, Carmine Falcone. We're going to get Zaz.
Yay!
And Kelsey Griffin as Detective Harper. Oh.
That's probably the person from Dragon Con, I'm sure.
Maybe. I don't think so, though. I think she had I'm looking at this girl's Twitter. I think it is the girl from there. I didn't think she said...
Is she black? Because there was a... Yeah, she is. There was a Harper in the Robin run.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, I wonder if it's her. I'm
sure she'll...
I think this is her. I'm going to have to look. She gave me her business card, which is in my backpack, because she actually said that she'd be down for an interview, after a few episodes aired, and she could, talk about... She's
also on Power, where Mayana's supporting character, or recurring character.
Yay! Your aunt is so cool.
Aw.
I love your family. Your family is amazing. And I haven't met the guys yet. So, it's pending.
That is true.
So, we all saw the promo for that, so... What do we? It's interesting to me, Miami, because during last year I actually was living in Miami for 50% of the week last year, because I had a part-time job down there, and I was doing commute work too. I recorded some episodes down there, so and I grew up near Miami, so it's actually interesting that Gotham's going to go there, but because of the whole crime noir world with no cell phones and stuff, it'll be interesting to see how they portray Miami.
What do you mean without cell phones?
Well, yeah, that's true. They have cell, but you know what I mean. How they try and say that the world is everything is the past except for the Ford Focuses.
It's a really weird. I think mid to late 90s vibe. Yeah. Where cell phones were just becoming a thing.
Except the TVs are weird too. So it's almost the 80s in some sense. I totally was going to make a Ford Focus joke about Bruce's suit and I forgot to.
I'm sorry.
When Lucis is it has a lot of durability, like a Ford Focus, and it has Bluetooth so that you and Alfred can talk to each other, like the Bluetooth Ford Focus. It's bulletproof, like a Ford Focus. It'll help you have speed, like a Ford Focus. In fact, instead of a suit, why don't you just drive this Ford Focus around?
You can still cut that in.
I don't really have much else to say about the promo, and except for what we've talked about the last few weeks with Sophia Falcone coming to Gotham and the ramifications of it. And that's one of the things I did ask Ben McKenzie. I was won't Sophia be mad at Gordon for killing her brother? And he kind of shrugged and said, "You would think so, but I guess not."
That's a legit reaction. It's Gotham.
Well, I'm not even like paraphrasing that, but like he said, yeah, you would think so, but
No, I'm with you. There's not much to say. It's like, it was like, I'm with you trying to save the innocent, but why would you save someone like her? It's like, that sure is a cliffhanger. And we'll probably talk about it on the next episode. I don't love the how the approach to Sophia Falcone appears, but we'll see how it turns out.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'll be an interesting thing to watch unfold. Because I love Crystal Reed's face, and I've never actually watched Teen Wolf, which is what made her famous. But I think she's like super beautiful forever. And I'm just glad that there's something that I'm watching that I don't have to go through 7 seasons of to actually watch her. Like she's been given to me to watch. So, yeah.
And a quick recommendation, Gotham, right after Gotham finishes, Fox is airing a show called The Orville, which I was not expecting much of, but I've surprisingly been enjoying it. Like, it was kind of marketed as, like, Seth MacFarlane does funny stuff like Family Guy, American Dad, and The Cleveland Show. And now he's going to do this wacky live-action space show. It's going to be hilarious with fart jokes. But it's actually, like, a really it has a lighter tone, but it's not like Family Guy comedy. It's basically like, an homage to, like, Star Trek, and, like, an homage in, like, a good ways. Like, the comedy just comes from the fact that, like, they're doing, like, a tribute of it, not like... It's not like Spaceballs or Galaxy Quest, It's funny in the right ways and like serious in the right ways, and it took me a few episodes to really get into, but I'm really digging it. So if you watch Gotham live on Fox, stick around afterwards for the Orville.
I think Fox just gave you a bag full of money with the dollar sign. Your laundry, of course.
So until next time, this is Josh.
This is Don.
This is Jan.
And you've been listening to the Gotham Chronicle podcast.
Go, get it.
Gotham City.
It's the start of a brand new day. Things are upside down here in the
Gotham City.
adventure's just a moment away.
Holy shit! Is he back?
Yeah. I just came back a second ago.
We're just saying. I don't know this podcast is going to happen tonight.
We had like this really long talk about racial tension in our country.
Because of course we did.
Yeah. So
That's what happens when you put 2 black people together.
Basically, because my flashlight's on. Let me turn that off. That's weird.
Is it weird?
Josh is one of those good ones. He doesn't get paranoid when he hears stuff like that.
Oh, whatever, Don. All that and more. So basically, like, there's like this app where we like report incidents that happen at work, and because like I reported what happened, like the people who own this company, which like Don knows that their nicknames are the Dragons, they like actually drove over here to like inspect and like look for drugs.
Whoops.
Yeah. So like it's like, oh, my boss has just walked in the door. I better stop doing this podcast for a second.
Gotcha.
That'll get cut so you don't get fired.
I mean, I could put portions of that in there. It is not usually like this at all. I feel like the last show went pretty, well, there was just that one interruption.
Yep.
Okay, so where were we? Yeah, I know. Somebody came downstairs because the Dragons woke him up, so he's doing a quick smoke outside. So where were we?
Did we finish our talk on Ivy? Was that it?
Yeah,
I feel like
we moved on to Barbara
Oh,
Keane.
yeah, we were talking about Barbara Keane. Okay.
And it was Josh's turn, I think. No, Josh just finished. I think it was Donovan's turn.
Oh, we were talking about the acting. I think it was Donovan's turn, and he mentioned that she had good acting, and then like I talked about how like she quivered and everything when.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll just talk about her in general, and everyone can jump in when they want. It's
It's better than nothing, I suppose. I don't know.
Wow. Look, you've summoned the police.
It's the JCVD.
This is Lieutenant Gordon. Come on with your hands up. You'll shoot me anyway. Yeah, do as I say.
Is your name Mario? Oh my goodness.
There was a Spider-Man podcast we were on years ago where, like, we were.
Do we need this conversation?
It is relevant.
It is relevant.
Do I? Okay, because we're coming up on an hour.
I mean,
And we were literally just supposed to cover Barbara and Ivy.
yeah, no, I kind of like gave like the life raft like half an hour ago. I was like, so is that it for Barbara? But I accidentally said Harley Quinn, then we all laughed and like, and the life raft flew away. No, but what I'm saying is like, just in terms of a conversation like this, years ago we were on a Spider-Man podcast and there was two characters that went to college with Spider-Man that were dating each other, and Dawn didn't think that they were dating. And me and John Wilson, the other guy on the podcast, spent like 6 months like explaining to Dawn that these two people were dating. And there'd be issues where like one character would say, it was Flash and Gwen, so Flash would say, I'm gonna go out on a date with Gwen, I'll see you guys later. And Dawn's like, yeah, but Flash is joking. And then like another issue where Gwen is like, I have a date with Flash tonight. Oh, they're joking. And then when Flash goes into the army, a bunch of guys are saying, wow, Gwen, now that Flash is in the army, who are you going to date now? And she says, I guess I'm up for grabs. And then, like, just various issues of, like, you know...
God damn it,
Peter...
Dawn.
I have a better idea. Why don't you go out to your shop, read the actual issues, and come back and tell me what you think, rather than listen to, you know, Peter Postmark over here, because he's a very biased source. You can't always listen to what he says.
You're gonna have to give me an idea of what comics, because there's like a bazillion Spider-Man comics to read.
It's very specifically like the early Stanley stuff, and it's like within like maybe 10 issues, if that. It's not very.
I mean, she doesn't even have to read the. I'll just show her like different scans of Gwen and Flash saying that they're dating each other, and then Dawn, and then like over Dawn's denials of, yeah, but they were joking the whole time.
But why? But why were they joking?
Dawn says that no one took anything seriously in those stories, and everyone always said something with a goofy smile on their face, so you shouldn't take it seriously.
Wow. Dawn, you have like the weirdest reasoning for things.
I can't wait for
You completely turned her against me.
It wasn't hard to do. You with your like, I don't think Tabitha and Butch were like, you know, serious about each other. She got her can cut off for him, Dawn.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to back up Josh on this one.
Whatever. I don't care anymore. I give up. I quit.
No, it's just because you're jealous that Butch gets some and you don't. It's fine.
Oh yeah, that's what it is. I wish it was just like. Oh man. Well, it is just Jessica Lucas. So. I just don't want this to be in the episode.
Yeah, just leave that part out, please.
Oh my god, like, yeah.
I would strangle you.